This is our Living Things in Their Environment title, which is part of the Forwards with Science series. The titles run on TextThieves, and that means that you require TextThieves on the computer in order to run any of these programs. They are aimed at Key Stage 2 science, and some of the screens may be used for lower down the school and in fact further up at higher ability levels. So here we are, Living Things in Their Environment, and we click on there to go back. Here is the opening screen for Living Things in Their Environment. I'll show you what some of the buttons do. If we click on that one, we get some information about the program itself, or the title. This one is version 3.47, published June 2012, so quite new. Click here for more information, and these are the buttons that are found on the screens, and that is what they do. If I click on some of these other buttons, we click on here, that opens an activity on food chains, and we click on this one, that opens an activity on microorganisms, and we click on this one to have the full screen. And we could click on any one of these, but we'll choose classifying living things, and we'll go back here. And if we click on this button here, it opens the first screen in the program. This particular one is one where you have got, the idea is that the words are in the wrong place and they need to be moved to the right place. There's a good opportunity to talk about the taskbar. As you can imagine, the arrows take you backwards and forwards. We know what that one does already. This is the task button, which will suggest what the children should do. This is the support button, give them a bit of information, sometimes in picture form, sometimes word form as there. That is the research button, with more information for them to scroll down and find sometimes. And that is the resource button, with words and pictures and sometimes beginnings and endings of sentences. And so that's what we have to do here. We have to move the words to the right place, and that one does appear to be in the right place. If we go to this one, it shows us a totally open-ended screen but using the same taskbar. And here, for instance, we can use the diagrams down here, the drawings, and we can say, okay, we want to do something about growth, or we want to do something about fertilization, or whatever it might be as a life process. And so there we have that one. Click on there. Here we have a word map. Every living thing, we could write here, every living thing breathes, all living things move, or some from place to place as the animals do, and so on. And here we've got a prioritizing activity, which one is the most important, and here another way of doing the same thing, justifying which one is the most important, and it is because, and the least important because, and that's our own candid opinion. And we go from there to life process terms, the process, the meaning of it, and why it is important, the importance of light to plants, and here we have text buttons, so we can go in here. The strong straight plants are growing in the greenhouse. We've already got that one, or we could have the one that's growing by the window, and so on. And here we have comparing animals and plants, and previously we had, I think, living and non-living. And another point here, if we print the screen, if we go into print screen and go into Paint and save the children's work in that way, in their folders, then we get the full screen, as we can see here. If we want to print the screen in this way here as a TextThieves activity, we'll find that the background doesn't print as a colour, the taskbar doesn't print, nor do the buttons, and also you have more room further down there in order to add further activities, or for the children to carry on with the activity that has been given to them. Importance of light, food chains, a nice simple one here, and here I have told you about the taskbar, haven't I? Well, there is the task button saying, can you find the correct images to fill the boxes? And here's one here, and one here, and there's some grass here somewhere, there it is, and we put that there, completing a simple food chain. And that'll tell us a little bit more about the food chain, what happens, at which stage, producers, the herbivores and the carnivores, and so on. We go to some examples there. And so, more food chains, a lot of animals and plants here, living organisms here, in order to make more. For instance, we could say that the mouse will eat the wheat, and the limpet could eat there, and we click on there if we want to put the word there in a nice easy way. More food chains, feeding relationships, number pyramids. Whenever we have one of those, we have word bank with words in, associated words, So we might have that could be an omnivore could eat a variety of food, a carnivore eats meat, a herbivore only eats plants, and so on. And once again, a different word activity using the same words but in a slightly different way. More number pyramids, and whenever you have a text box like that, you will have information, or you will have words, or you will be able to use your own imagination to do it. And making number pyramids, a food web, and so what we can do here is say we've already got one and there is another one, and then we can do the third one, or we can go here to this screen to have rather more complicated food web. Path of the energy through the food chain, and we click on these buttons to see what is happening at different points. And once again we can go into this one and we can see what happens when things die and decompose. Microorganisms, a little bit of information here about microorganisms and how careful we must be. Wash your hands after going to the toilet. We have more writing here. Do not refreeze thawed food, and room for the children to add more information here. Here they can find out what happens when microorganisms double their numbers, and they would certainly need their calculators for this activity because the numbers do increase very rapidly. And here another Venn diagram, good and bad microbes. Microorganisms I like. Nell Pneumonia likes warm, moist conditions. She doesn't like being cold, too hot or too dry. And another activity there, facts about microorganisms. They might make us feel ill. There are good and bad ones. They're very small and so on. And back to that one. Microorganisms that cause disease, we click on them and we find out what they could be called as well. So this type causes sore throat, so we'll think of something that could be called, and this one causes tummy upset, so we could call that Terry tummy upset or whatever. And here we go, that's another activity based on the same idea. Will is feeling ill, and we are writing down what he looks like, why he's feeling ill, does he have a temperature, does he have a sore throat, and so on. And now we have useful microorganisms. So we've got Colin, compost, and we can maybe have one here beginning, so that could be Gwendolyn wine or whatever. Making compost and living things in their habitats. So we've got lots of different activities here, lots of different organisms that we can add to that if we're talking about the living thing. And here we've got another way of showing that, living things in their habitats. Adapting to the habitat, so you've got more diagrams, and if we click on here we have some more who am I can see my prey from afar, I have strong claws to catch it, so that could be here. Or the children could write their own descriptions, and there you've got the differentiation by achievement. Classifying living things, should we say that they follow this down and they decide that they want to put there the bee, and they can go into here and find out if they're right. They'll click on the bee and say, oh yes, a short body and short clear wings, I was right. So that means that the children can have a look and they can check their own answers without necessarily needing the teacher with them all the time. And quite a few of those, there are 7 of those altogether. And here we have a sampling activity. They count the number of plants. I can either do this in the field, of course, and that tells them which ones to count and which ones not to count. And there they can complete a graph and write a report. And here they can go into another screen, another way to count plants, and here they've got a quadrant that they can throw at random, or of course they can use this screen to do it. And once again they know what they can and what they can't count, and they can graph the report and complete a graph, and of course they can compare the two processes. And here we are, compare the two methods I should say, and here we are back at the beginning again, and that is